Seniors over 60, don't ignore this natural muscle booster. It rebuilds strength fast. What if I told you your weakness isn't age? It's a missing signal, that shaky step, that hesitation before standing, that moment you forget a word you've said 1,000 times. You might think it's just the price of getting older, but it's not. What you're feeling may not be decline, but disconnection. You see, after 60, it's not your muscles that quit. First, it's the conversation between your brain and your body that begins to fade. The wires fray, the messages slow, and suddenly, the things you used to do without thinking now feel like climbing a mountain. But here's the truth. No one told you that connection can be restored. And you don't need to become a bodybuilder or spend hours at the gym. One overlooked nutrient, creatine, could quietly rebuild that lost bridge. Not just in your muscles, but in your memory, your balance, your confidence. So if you've been feeling like you're fading, stay with me. This video could flip a switch back on. And if you believe that aging shouldn't mean surrender, hit subscribe. We turn science into strength, one real-life habit at a time. Part 1. Muscle loss isn't a decline. It's a signal that the system needs support. Let's start with a reframe. What if what you've been calling muscle loss is actually your body's way of asking for help? Not a failure, but a message. You're not deteriorating. You're under-supported. After the age of 60, the most noticeable change isn't muscle size, it's coordination. You may feel your balance shifting, your steps shortening, or your strength dropping, especially when climbing stairs or standing up. And yet, these early signs are often misread as unavoidable. But studies say otherwise. According to research from the National Institute on Aging, muscle mass can decline by up to 1% per year after age 50. But that number is heavily influenced by activity, nutrition, and lifestyle. More importantly, strength can decrease twice as fast as mass, which hints that the problem isn't just in the muscles themselves, it's in how they're activated. That activation starts in your nervous system. In older adults, motor neurons, the nerve cells that communicate with muscle fibers, start to degrade when they're not regularly challenged. This causes muscles to lose their spark, not because the muscle is broken, but because the signal isn't coming through clearly. Here's the hopeful part: this system can be retrained. Creatine plays a direct role here. It fuels the cells that power movement and coordination, not just in your limbs, but in your brain. In fact, it supports the regeneration of ATP, the cellular energy needed for muscle firing and nerve signaling. In one study published in the Journals of Gerontology, older adults who supplemented with creatine while doing simple resistance exercises showed significantly improved neuromuscular response compared to those who didn't. These aren't bodybuilders, they're people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, restoring function. So if you've been experiencing fatigue, slower reaction times, or shakier balance, don't dismiss it as just age. It's a call to action to support the system, to wake it up, and to give it what it needs. In the next section, we'll explore how exactly creatine works, not just in building muscles, but in rebuilding the connection between your brain and your body. Part 2, creatine. How one simple molecule powers movement, memory, and muscle recovery. In the previous section, we uncovered that muscle loss isn't simply about shrinking tissue, but about weakening communication between the brain and the body. That connection relies heavily on energy, and this is where creatine quietly takes center stage. Creatine is often dismissed as a supplement for young athletes or bodybuilders, but in reality, it's a compound that our own bodies naturally produce and rely on every day. It acts like a power reserve, helping to regenerate ATP, the basic unit of cellular energy, when our cells need a fast and reliable source to fuel movement, thought, and coordination. The problem: after age 60, your natural stores of creatine start to diminish. Your muscles and brain both carry less of it, which means they regenerate energy more slowly. As a result, tasks that used to feel automatic, stepping off a curb, recalling a name, getting out of bed, start to require more effort and focus. You're not weaker because you're older. You're weaker because your cells are underpowered. Multiple studies support this. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia and Muscle found that older adults supplementing with creatine gained significantly more muscle strength and lean body mass compared to those who didn't. And notably, those effects were most profound when paired with light resistance training, not intense gym sessions. What's even more compelling is that creatine doesn't just support your muscles, it has a direct impact on your brain. According to a 2018 study in experimental gerontology, creatine supplementation improved cognitive function in older adults, particularly in memory recall, resistance to mental fatigue, and speed of information processing. This means that what you do for your muscles may also nourish your mental clarity and stability. Think of creatine like a translator between your brain and your body. It allows the signals to be not only louder, but clearer and faster. That's critical for preventing falls, responding quickly in everyday situations, and reducing the brain fog that so many older adults report. Creatine also plays a key role in recovery. If you've ever felt like it takes days to bounce back from a short walk or a light workout, you're not imagining it. Older muscles take longer to recover due to slower energy recycling. Creatine speeds that up, helping you feel stronger again, not in months, but sometimes in just a few weeks. So the question isn't whether creatine works, the research confirms it does. The real question is, why isn't every older adult using it? In the next section, we'll step into the practical side, what kind of movement reawakens your neuromuscular system, and how you can build a simple, realistic routine at home that pairs perfectly with creatine to restore your strength and confidence. Part 3. Movement as Medicine, Rebuilding Strength Without a Gym Membership. In the last section, we learned how creatine fuels the communication between your brain and muscles, restoring the wiring needed for strength and stability. But creatine alone is not enough. It's like gasoline, powerful, but useless without an engine to run it. That engine is movement. The problem is, many older adults have been led to believe that if they're not lifting weights or joining a gym, they can't rebuild muscle. This couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, when paired with a few simple at-home exercises, creatine becomes exponentially more effective. A 2021 meta-analysis in Nutrients reviewed data from adults aged 60 to 85 and found that those who combined daily creatine supplementation with just 3 sessions per week of low-intensity resistance training saw a 49% greater improvement in leg strength compared to those who trained without creatine. Even better, the training didn't require heavy weights. Bodyweight squats to a chair, standing leg lifts, and balance holds were enough to trigger growth. Why does this work so well? Because these types of movement don't just activate your muscles, they retrain your neuromuscular system. When you repeat functional motions like sitting and standing, your brain begins to remember how to fire the right muscles in the right order. Over time, this restores not only strength, but also balance and coordination. Neglecting this kind of movement doesn't just lead to weakness, it puts you at serious risk for falls, hospitalizations, and loss of independence. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 Americans over 65 falls each year. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in this group. That statistic alone underscores why rebuilding strength isn't optional, it's survival. The good news is that neuroplasticity doesn't have an expiration date. Your brain can still form new connections, your muscles can still grow, but you have to challenge them. Even in small ways, 10 chair stands in the morning, a few wall push-ups after lunch, a walk around the block with purpose. Consistency matters more than intensity. The goal isn't to sweat or strain, it's to send a message from brain to muscle that your system is still active, still engaged, still strong. In the next section, we'll shift our focus to the cognitive side, because while regaining physical balance is critical, your mental stamina, your ability to think clearly, focus and process also depends on this same cellular energy. And once again, creatine plays a central role. Let's explore how it helps sharpen your mind as much as your body. Part 4. Mental fatigue isn't inevitable, how creatine supports the aging brain. In the previous section, we saw how even small, Intentional movements could reactivate the physical conversation between your brain and muscles. But what about the mind itself? What about that mid-afternoon fog, the name you can't recall, or the conversation you can't quite follow? That isn't just frustrating, it's deeply unsettling, and it's not a coincidence. Your brain consumes nearly 20% of your body's total energy. Despite weighing only about 2% of your body mass, every thought, memory, and decision is powered by ATP, the same molecule creatine helps regenerate. When ATP supply slows down, your neurons struggle to fire efficiently, especially during high-demand tasks like problem-solving, emotional regulation, or multitasking. This is why creatine, although marketed mostly for muscles, has become a focus of serious research in cognitive health. A 2018 randomized controlled trial published in Experimental Gerontology found that older adults who took 5 g of creatine daily for just 6 weeks showed significant improvements in working memory and resistance to mental fatigue. Another study in psychopharmacology reported that creatine supplementation enhanced information processing speed and accuracy in older women during complex cognitive tasks. The impact is especially strong in those who follow plant-based diets or consume little red meat or fish, the main dietary sources of creatine. In these individuals, baseline brain creatine levels are already low, making them more prone to symptoms like low mental energy, trouble focusing, or premature burnout during the day. What does this mean in daily life? It means fewer brain blanks when you're trying to remember a word. It means sharper focus when reading, better emotional control when conversations get difficult, and less mental drain by mid-afternoon. That's not small. That's the difference between showing up in life and retreating from it. But the cognitive benefits go beyond clarity. There's growing evidence that creatine may help protect against long-term neurodegenerative decline. In early-stage research on mild cognitive impairment and Parkinson's disease, creatine supplementation appeared to slow functional decline and support mitochondrial health in neurons. Though these findings are still emerging, they point to a future where creatine may not just sharpen the aging mind, it may help preserve it. All of this returns to a central truth: your energy is not gone. It's just not being restored efficiently. By recharging the brain's fuel system, creatine empowers you not only to move more confidently, but to think, remember, and react with more clarity. And clarity changes everything: your relationships, your ability to make decisions, and your sense of control over your own life. Next, we'll take this even deeper. If energy decline in the muscles and brain is partly due to inflammation and mitochondrial wear and tear, what if creatine also helps protect your body from that deeper cellular damage? In the following section, we'll explore how creatine may influence long-term aging by supporting your body's internal repair systems. Part 5, Fighting the Fire Within, how creatine helps reduce inflammation and protects your cells. So far, we've explored how creatine helps restore both physical coordination and mental clarity by fueling energy at the cellular level. But why do those energy systems start to fail in the first place? A major, often overlooked factor is chronic inflammation, the slow, silent breakdown that ages your body from the inside out. Inflammation isn't always visible. It doesn't always come with pain or swelling. But over time, low-grade inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging, can erode muscle tissue, disrupt brain function, damage mitochondria, and increase vulnerability to age-related disease. According to the National Institutes of Health, elevated levels of inflammatory markers like interleukin-6, IL-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNFI, are strongly correlated with frailty, muscle wasting, cognitive decline, and even shortened lifespan in older adults. This is where creatine's lesser-known benefit becomes so compelling. Beyond its role in energy metabolism, studies have shown that creatine may help modulate inflammation at the cellular level. In a 2020 study published in Aging Research Reviews, creatine supplementation was found to lower levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines and support mitochondrial resilience, the tiny engines in your cells that power everything from movement to memory. By stabilizing these mitochondria, Creatine acts as a buffer against oxidative stress, a form of internal rust caused by free radicals. When your mitochondria falter, energy production drops, cell damage accumulates, and fatigue sets in. But when mitochondria are protected and energized, your tissues, muscle, brain, even skin function more efficiently and recover more easily. This protective effect may explain why creatine has shown promise in slowing progression in early neurodegenerative conditions and reducing muscle breakdown in older adults. In individuals who regularly engage in light exercise while supplementing with creatine, researchers observed lower levels of post-exercise inflammation and faster recovery times compared to those who trained without it. In practical terms, this could mean less soreness after a walk or light strength training session, fewer off days due to exhaustion, and greater consistency in your routines, which is the real secret to long-term improvement. But it also means something bigger. When your inflammation is managed and your cells are recovering properly, your aging slows down not just on the surface, but deep in your biology. You don't just feel stronger. You actually are stronger right down to your DNA repair mechanisms and immune resilience. This cellular protection adds another layer to why creatine isn't just a supplement for short-term strength or quick energy. It's becoming recognized as a tool for long-term vitality, a daily practice that reinforces your body's ability to heal, adapt, and resist decline. In the next section, we'll shift from science to action. You now know the why. Next, we'll walk through the how, the safest, most effective way to add creatine to your routine, what dose is best, and how to pair it with your meals and movement to get the full benefit without the confusion. Part 6, simple and safe, how to use creatine effectively after 60. Now that we understand creatine's role in restoring energy, protecting cells, and supporting both body and brain, the next question is, how do you actually use it safely and effectively? The good news is, unlike many supplements with complex instructions or questionable claims, creatine is simple, well-researched, and widely accessible. The most studied and recommended form is creatine monohydrate. It's the gold standard used in nearly every clinical trial involving older adults, affordable, stable, and effective. The dosage is equally straightforward, 5 grams per day, taken consistently. You don't need to load it, cycle on and off, or pair it with protein shakes. Just a small scoop mixed with water or juice, ideally taken with a small meal that contains carbohydrates. Why carbs? Because insulin helps shuttle creatine into your muscle cells more effectively. Even something as basic as oatmeal or a banana can do the job. What matters most isn't timing, it's consistency. Whether you take it in the morning, afternoon, or before bed, creatine works best when your muscles and brain stay saturated with it over time. That's why results are often felt subtly at first: less soreness, slightly better balance, more stable energy, and then grow steadily in the weeks that follow. A common concern among older adults is whether creatine is safe for kidneys. This fear came from early studies that misinterpreted lab markers in people with existing kidney conditions. But multiple long-term trials, including a 2022 systematic review in nutrition, confirmed that creatine at the standard 5G dose poses no harm to kidney function in healthy individuals, even in those with mild hypertension or type 2 diabetes. Another myth is that creatine causes bloating. In reality, creatine draws water into muscle cells, not under the skin. This cellular hydration is actually beneficial. It improves nutrient transport, increases muscle volume slightly, and enhances performance during everyday tasks like walking, lifting groceries, or even getting out of bed. What matters more than any single dose is how creatine fits into your daily rhythm. To make it stick, connect it to an existing habit, take it with breakfast, keep it next to your medications, or set a reminder on your phone. The goal isn't to create a new chore, it's to make it frictionless. Just another part of supporting your independence. When paired with light resistance training 2 to 3 times per week, the benefits multiply. Research shows that combining 5G of creatine daily with basic strength movements leads to greater improvements in muscle mass, balance, and mobility than either intervention alone. And there's one more subtle benefit as your strength and energy rebuild. Your confidence often follows. That daily walk feels easier. That sense of fatigue lifts. You start to trust your body again. In the final section, we'll tie everything together, not just the science and the routine, but the message behind it. You're not too old. You're not out of options. Aging with power is possible, and it starts with one simple step, repeated daily. Let's finish strong. Part 7, you're not too old, you're just not fully fueled yet. We've come full circle, from brain-muscle disconnection to energy loss to inflammation, and now practical daily action. It all leads to one truth: the human body, even after 60, still responds to support. It doesn't stop adapting, it just needs the right signal and fuel. Creatine is not a magic pill, but it is one of the most scientifically supported, low-cost, low-risk tools available to older adults. It replenishes what the body naturally loses with age. It improves muscle recovery, supports memory, enhances coordination, and reduces fatigue, not because it transforms you overnight, but because it works steadily beneath the surface, where aging quietly begins. What we often mistake as getting old is often just undernourishment at the cellular level. You're not failing, you're underpowered. The research is clear. You don't need a gym. You don't need to lift heavy. You need simple, consistent movement and cellular energy to support it. 5 grams a day, a short walk, body weight squats. That's it. The only thing left to decide is whether you're ready to take ownership of your aging, not to reverse time, but to move through it with strength and clarity. Next, we'll wrap it all up and offer you one last reminder. It's not too late to rebuild, and you are not alone in this journey. Stand up and sit down from a chair 10 times. Breathe, repeat. Let time and consistency do their work. If this video gave you even a glimmer of hope, share it, leave a comment, tell us how you're starting, and subscribe to join a community of people choosing to age forward, not fade out, because you are not too old. You are right on time. And there is so much strength still waiting inside you, one small habit at a time.